Hello guys, welcome back to the second part of creating webtoon background using Blender. This is the second part of the series where we will be focused on adding material, lighting, as well as export the process for final touch on your webtoon panel. Before we jump into that, I want to make sure we have using the same render setting, as this significantly affect your view per render. Head over the Render Properties tab and set your render engine to Eevee. Why? Because Eevee is much lighter and faster, making it perfect for our goal creating webtoon background. If you are aiming for higher realism, you can use High-Cos as its lighting engine perform much more complex ray tracing calculation. But keep in mind, it will be much more heavier for your PC. You can just match your render setting with the one I'm showing on the screen. Alright, in part 1, I mentioned how to use the append feature to import native Blender file. Today, I want to talk about another method, because Blender can actually import several different 3D format files. For example, if I want to import an object in the FBX format, all I have to do is go to File, select the Import, and choose the FBX format. You will notice that while the object imports directly into the scene, it turns bright pink. This color is Blender's way of telling you that the texture file are missing or that Blender couldn't locate their file path. The solution is simple. Just go to File, select External Data, and then click Find Missing Files. Just make sure you have kept the texture folder from the asset you have downloaded online. Once you point it to the right folder, that pink object will instantly revert to its original looks. Now, I will show you how to apply material to the object you have modeled yourself. You can switch the material preview mode so you can see the base color as you apply them. Or go straight to render preview where you can see the material react to the lighting of your scene. First, head over to Material Properties tab. You will see a new button there to create a new material. Go ahead and click it, then rename the material so it will be easy to identify. Now, your object will be covered by this new material. That material covers the entire object, but what if you only want to color a specific area you have selected? Here is how. Create a new material slot with a different color and name. Then, jump into Edit mode and select the face of area you want to color. Back in the Material tab, you will see an Assign button. Click that and now you have applied that material only to the specific area you have selected. Now, this material also represents the physical properties of your object. For example, if I want to create a console screen that looks reflective, I can adjust the roughness and IOR values. The lower the roughness, the more reflective it becomes, and the higher the IOR, the clearer and more defined the reflection will look. To really see the effect, make sure to switch over the render viewport first. Feel free to play around with the scale, moving from low to high to get better feel for how the change affect the look. The material you have created are automatically saved in Blender Material Directory. So, if you want to apply exact same material to another object, just click the little circle icon next to the material name. From there, you can search for the material you have created earlier and select it. Now, you have easily applied the same material to your other object. Next, let's try adding texture. Here, I want to add a texture for the cancel button. I create the PNG texture myself in Clip Studio Paint because my goal isn't hyperrealism. Just like before, create a new material and give it a unique name. After that, it's time to explore the Shading tab. In this tab, you will see a node called Principled BSDF. This is the default material node that appears every time you create a new material in Blender. Now, press Shift A to add a node called Image Texture. Then, connect the color output of the image texture node to the base color input in the Principled BSDF node. As you can see, the color turned completely black. This happened because I haven't loaded the actual file to the image texture node yet. And go ahead to open the image texture node and select the image file you want to use as your texture. Once you have opened the file, the texture will appear, but as you can see, it looks all messed up. To fix this, we need to do some UV editing or UV unwrapping. You can open the UV editing tab at the top and you will see a bunch of messy overlapping planes. These planes are essentially your 3D object dissected and flattened into 2D space. To be honest, UV wrapping can be pretty complicated, but since I'm just adding a sticker texture to my button, I can just select the face of my button in the viewport and press U and select Unwrap. Now, my button face are separated in the UV editor and I can freely move them around on my texture, and this allow me to align the face exactly where they need to be so the texture appear perfectly on the button area. I won't go into detail of the manual seam-based UV unwrapping here. It's far too complex and time-consuming for the simple background we are aiming for just a webtoon. If you want to master that, there are plenty of specific tutorials out there you can check out on your own. By the way, if you find your viewport render too dark, it's likely because you haven't added any light yet. In my case, I have already placed a few light objects around my room. Here is how I create light object. Create a new mesh, for instance, a cube. Add a new material, but instead of using principal BSDF, use emission. This will allow the object emit its own light. You can adjust the strength value to control how bright or dim that material glows. Next, let's add the actual light source. Press Shift A, go to Light and select Area Light. Adjust the power of the area light which function just like the strength setting in the emission material. Just make sure the area light isn't obstructed by other object. For instance, if you accidentally place it inside the solid object, the light obviously won't be able to spread. Now, I want to talk about glass. Since we used Archimedes in the previous part, it came with preset material for cycles. Because I'm using Eevee render engine, the glass is appearing black and isn't transparent. To fix this, go to material for your glass and head over the shading tab. Add a principal BSDF node to connect it to the material output. To control the transparency, adjust the alpha value. Also, set the transmission weight into 1. If you notice any noise or grain in your glass, go to material surface setting and change the blend mode into blended. That will make it look smooth. Next, let's try changing the world setting. Go to the world tab where you will see the Blender default dark gray background. To change this, head over the shading tab and then switch the drop-down menu from object to world. Here, I'm going to change the world background into sky gradient. Press Shift A to add a color ramp node and connect its color output to the surface input in the background node. After that, add a gradient texture node and connect its color output to the vector input in color ramp. It seems the Node Wrangler add-on is enabled by default in Blender 5, so you can just simply press Ctrl T to automatically add the mapping nodes. If it happens to be disabled, just go to Preferences and activate it, just like we did with the add-ons in part 1. Now you can start customizing the color in the color ramp to create your sky gradient. Feel free to add or remove a color stop to create a more vibrant or variety of color. Now, since the world gradient is currently horizontal, we need to adjust it to create a vertical gradient. To do this, simply change the Y rotation in the mapping node to 90 degrees. On top of that, you can also play around with the location values in the mapping node to shift the gradient color exactly where you want them. As you can see, the shadow color are being influenced by the color of your world. Now, let's add another light source, a sunlight. Just press Shift A and search for sun. This sunlight will serve as your scene primary light source. You can position it by rotating or simply press R to direct the light exactly where you want them to be. As you can see, there is an angle setting in the sunlight properties. You can lower this value to make the shadow look more sharper and more defined, which is perfect for animal looks. Now, everything is prepared and we are ready to render and export our background for Webtoon. First, press Shift A to add camera object. After that, frame the perfect angle for your Webtoon panel. Then, press shortcut Ctrl-Alt-0 to snap the camera directly to your current view. After that, you can adjust the camera setting, customize the focal length to suit your need, turn on depth of field if you want that cinematic blur, and so on. If you head over the Output tab, you can also set your preferred resolution for the final render. Here, I'm turning off the room light because it's daytime in the scene, so the sun is the only primary light source. Once everything is ready, just press F12 or render image to start. Actually, you could also add line art to your render using freestyle or grease pencil. However, I'm skipping that here because it significantly increased rendering time and my PC isn't quite powerful enough to handle grease pencil with this many objects in the scene. Once the render is complete, don't forget to save the image, and now it's time to move on into the actual webtoon creation process. Now we are moving on to the drawing software. I personally use Clip Studio Paint for this. First, let's set up a long canvas, which is the standard format for webtoons since they are designed for vertical scrolling. And then of course, we will import all the image we just rendered to use as our background. Next, we move on to the storyboard stage, the rough sketches for planning out the webtoon panel. For this, I just use the 3D model built into Clip Studio Paint. It's much more faster that way, and I don't have to worry about drawing sketches manually. After that, it's time for the line art. I simply draw the line art by tracing over the 3D model I have placed. I make sure to keep the line art over every panel neat and clear. By clear, I mean that every panel must be easily understandable, so the reader doesn't have to pause and wonder what I'm looking at. After the line art is finished, it's time to move on to the coloring stage. The coloring in webtoon is a process of taking your empty line art and bringing it into full color with shading. I start by applying the base color to the character in each panel, and then I add shading that follows the light source from the rendered background. This is the beauty of having background pre-render. It makes the coloring process so much more easier because I can just follow the existing lighting setup. Once the character shading is finished, there is still one final step: finishing. Why? Because at this stage, the full colored character often still doesn't feel fully integrated with the background. This finishing process is very crucial to unify all the components, so the webtoon look polished and ready for presentation. Since everyone has their own unique drawing style, it's unlikely that you would want to copy my exact rendering style from Blender. I intentionally rendered mine that way because it suits my personal art style. So if you want your background render to match your own style, just use a color picker tool in Blender to select color directly from your existing palette. Finally, all that's left is to add the text bubble and sound effect, and your webtoon page is complete. So what do you think, guys? Pretty easy, right? That's it for today's video. If you need more tutorial on webtoon creation, feel free to check out my webtoon playlist. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye.